If I had to point to a single reason why I delayed working on all of these character breakdowns for patch 1.40 until 1.41 was released, it would be this guy right here, Hit. Because as I've covered before on the channel, Hit's infinite combo bug that he had with the bugged version of Instant Blow genuinely like warped the character balance. Like there was no point in exploring anything else with the character because why would you do anything other than infinite and kill your opponent for like no meter or 1 bar meter or anything else like that. Now that we have the properly behaving version of the move in the game, I can now feel comfortable going forward to talking about Hit, how he was before patch 1.38, and how he is now in patch 1.41. And this is kind of like one of the moments where I actually have to talk about a character with regards to their 1.41 state while talking about their changes from 1.40. Enough beating around the bush, let's get into Hit. Previously, the knockback on Hit's full light auto combo would look something like this. Pretty marginal with about 25 frames of advantage. And in the corner, if you actually canceled into his stance, well, then you were actually too far away to go into his famous auto combo loops. There were some ways to do it still, but it was particularly tricky, and it usually involved you going into other normals besides just starting the loop over again. I remember being pretty much against this nerf from the moment it was introduced, even while not being a Hit player, simply because it just felt like why? The character already has some issues even stringing together anything resembling a modern-day Dragon Ball FighterZ combo. Why are we reducing his combo potential? And it seems like Bandai has finally changed their minds about Hit. Let's take a look at how they have adjusted the knockback on the final hit of Hit's full light auto combo. Mid-screen, it doesn't look too much different, but once we get close to the corner and we add in a little stance cancel, we're much closer. Close enough to once again do his corner auto combo loops, which add in a whole bunch of damage and meter build for his corner combo routes again, which, why did this ever get taken away in the first place? I'm happy that after all this time, Bandai has reverted this nerf, because I do think it was a dumb nerf when they did it, and it's just cool to have this back. Like, genuinely, I'm happy for Hit players for this. Now let's look into Hit's standing unique attack. It's a counter attack. So the opponent has to swing into it to trigger Hit's strike. Now, he has iframes when he initiates the counter, for him to absorb the move and then counterattack, but the iframes actually wear off once he starts his attack against the opponent and reappears in front of them. This means that if the opponent is savvy enough, or if they're just flinging buttons randomly, they could actually interrupt Hit from doing his attack and hit him out of his counter, thus sort of negating the purpose of it. As you can see here, it took me 2 demonstrations, but if the stars aligned, the opponent could actually strike Hit out of his counter when he was successful using it. Now, thanks to the priority of the move, the opponent, I think, had to commit to doing something like a heavy attack or something like that, but if they had like an invincible reversal or a super or something like that, well, they could wait for Hit to commit to those things, react to the counter, and then completely shoot Hit for going for this particular play. Of course, this particular example is a bit of an expensive showcase of some counterplay in there, but this would be more common, of course, if you had more invincible options than just a level 3. So Hit could be punished for going for his counter if the opponent was aware enough of it. To make sure that Hit's standing unique attack is able to successfully counter the opponent in any given situation, and for Hit to not get murked by like an assist, or perhaps even like a crazy normal from the opponent, or even a super, they made it so that he now has full invincibility when he blocks the attack, and they've increased the clash level of the move as well. So if we run the same demonstration we did with the assist like last time, there is never an outcome where GT Goku's 5H is going to beat this normal. Like, there just simply isn't. We'll have him go a little earlier. Like, that's pretty much into GG Goku's active frame on 5H, and, like, hit is not having anything to do with it. And if we take this a step further, right, and try this demonstration, let's see what happens. Hit just flat out wins in this situation now. So all of a sudden, if Hit is able to connect his standing unique attacks counter, you have to respect it. There's not really any sort of counterplay to it. Now, there is also one other change, a very interesting change, that is actually going to be a theme for some characters throughout this patch to standing unique attack. And that's the fact that the patch notes say this: automatically attacks when the opponent is in hit stun. Hit can now use this in combos. Hit can combo off of this. Hit can use his 5S as an additional normal. He's able to sprinkle this in for some more damage. The counter move is also a combo tool now, and this will come up a couple other times throughout the patch notes, but Hit is the first time we actually get to discuss what I think is one of the more creative and cool changes that this patch has to offer for Dragon Ball FighterZ. Now, jumping unique attack doesn't inherit these same traits as the standing version does. All of its iframes and whatnot behave exactly as it did in the previous patch, but it does inherit the combo potential that the standing version does, and it's actually pretty useful. As you can see here, it had no combo potential before. The one change that jumping unique attack does inherit is the fact that it will freeze the opponent and allow a Hit to then attack when they're in hit stun. Hit's air combo game has generally been pretty limited, but now he has a free built-in side swap if he so needs it, and he also just has the ability to add a little bit more damage to his air combo routes if he needs the extra extension to get the kill. It's a pretty small change for Hit in here, but it's also kind of a cool one to see. Now that we have the unbugged version of Instant Blow to look at, we can actually start evaluating its properties. So previously this was namely just, combo ender for Hit, but it was also fairly limited. If you do his light stance into the medium instant blow finisher, well, that would work. But if you tried medium stance, that didn't work off of a 5H, nor did the EX version. The opponent would, still be in their hit stun state, and you wouldn't actually be able to link these previously. So now let's take a look at how Instant Blow's time freeze effect works. GG Goku kind of freezes in place in mid-air there, so at some higher altitudes, you don't have to really worry about GG Goku falling out of this move. Does it open up anything new for hits? Well, you can see that the opponent kind of freezes when we go for the medium version, but it doesn't quite link. Neither does the EX version, unfortunately, but it usually means that you're able to keep the opponent at a fixed height after you use this move, and so you're able to get some more consistent pickups. We'll explore that combo potential with Hit, along with the change to his standing unique attack and jumping unique attack, in a moment after we also look at Guard Breaker. Hit's Guard Breaker attack also inherited the same buff that Instant Blow did, so let's go ahead and look at the old behaviors. We can see that light stance into it worked before, but not medium stance. And not quite EX stance either. So let's see Guard Breaker's time freeze effect now. Again, GG Goku stays a little bit higher. But, unlike with the change to Deadly Intent, we are now actually able to combo Guard Breaker from the medium stance, giving us a side swap. As well as, going into it from EX stance. So there's definitely some sparking shenanigans that you can do here, and that's where I think some of the utility for these time freeze effects on these special moves is going to apply, but there's also some things you can do outside of sparking for Hit. Let's take a look at Twitter. Let's take a look at Dionysus, Dying and Sus on Twitter here, looking into some Hit corner combos. So, we're burning the slide knockdown, smash launcher, and now with the time freeze on this, we can see that we're able to keep the enemy dummy substantially higher so that we're able to do kind of like another variant of the loops. And then, of course, we can end the combo here using an assist and a DR, and, et cetera, with the DHCs. Courtesy of one of the best Frieza players in the world, KJ Pixel, who did some hit labbing after the bug fix was applied, we can see some other variations of Ginyu corner combo routes, specifically punishing guard cancel. Adding in the 5S there, Deadly Intent. Deadly Blow, excuse me. It's a TOD, ladies and gentlemen, and there's another variation here as well. This one off a Perfect Reflect.
Won't be able to block.
So you can see there's plenty of opportunities to add in the standing unique attack for a little bit of extra damage, and the bar build's pretty okay. We almost hit that 3-bar power spike off of, actually, it's a 1.5 bar starter, so, you know, the fact that we're still hovering around that area for half a bar of investment isn't too bad. For another combo idea route from Dionysus, we can actually look at something that they consider to be a bit easier than some of the combos they posted earlier. It includes a nice jump extension, actually, utilizing the JS change. Vanish to put him in the corner. You know, and then go from there. If you have the bar to kill him, well, you certainly will. There is also a side effect of the hit stun change, and we'll look at this later down the line with another character who is featured in the Tournament of Power, and that's the fact that the changes to JS and 5S will apply to the opponent while they're in hit stun. The game will consider the opponent to be in hit stun while they are in knockdown. So, if you do level 3 with hit,
I continue to improve.
you can actually steal the corner and go for mix-up here, because JS will trigger and hit will warp to the opponent, and you have your air action. So he actually has some level 3 Oki, and of course this applies on pretty much any sliding knockdown that hit gets. He could simply go for a JS and put himself into a fixed position to then chase after the opponent. So definitely something to explore with the character. All 3 versions of Icy Glare have the same set of buffs, so let's go through them one by one. First off, let's look at the old version startups. Light version at point blank range started up at 26 frames. The medium version, which went full screen, would start up and connect at frame 33. Meanwhile, the EX version, which would work at about mid-screen, would combo at frame 24, or strike the opponent at frame 24. Additionally, none of these moves had any sort of property. So while you would like to be able to throw out the cheeky command throw here, if the opponent was proactive with, you know, any sort of zoning, well, then you were shot for doing this. In addition to that one, you could hold the button down, but for what gain, really? You know, we did 1,333 damage previously off the medium version, which is the same as the uncharged version. Outside of... Actually, I don't really think there was a context where you would charge up the attack right here. Like, you just would simply let them rock as they were before, and the charge state kind of didn't really have too much of a purpose outside of, like, being able to extend this grab range a little bit farther, right? You know, letting it go so that you could actually reach the opponent, which no one's really going to get hit by that. There might have been a few combo cases, like, depending on the assist that you had, where you could link this into it, but it just really served no point or purpose. There wasn't a function for this. Now let's take a look at Icy Glare's new properties, starting with the startup. Light version starts up at frame 25. The medium version will now connect at frame 32, so both of these are about 1 frame faster. And the EX version is at frame 23, so pretty much all of these are now 1 frame faster, which could open up some new combo links, just make them slightly better as mix-up tools, etc., etc. But there's also another change to the move as well. That's the wrong recording, pardon me. I believe it's recording 1. Hit is now fully projectile invincible while he's charging the attack. So, he has some anti-zoning capabilities now. You know, if you're at these ranges and you want to try to zone out Hit, he could commit to just going for these command throws and catch you unawares. releasing to then catch you with the throw. That's kind of some intimidating neutral to be up against. There's also one last change to it. Holding down the button will now increase the damage. So we talked a bit before about how, this always did 1334 damage. Well, if we hold this down, we just added 1,000 damage there. In fact, it can go all the way up to 2,900 damage. I don't think this is going to be coming up too often. Again, the best case scenario I can see for this is if, you pair this with some long duration C assist to then, add this as some extra damage to your combo. But so long as you hold it down a little bit, you will increase the damage. So, if you're using some of these, at least the medium version, in a situation where you're catching out the opponent's zoning, you might have the potential to get just a higher damage combo because of the time you're holding down the command throw in order to get the iframes to go through the projectile. So, some fun changes here for Icy Glare. Since both these moves have the same buff, I'm going to talk about them together and save us all a little bit of time. Deadly Intent and Mark of an Assassin, Hit's command dashes, have the same buff. Previously, they were projectile invincible from frame 4. That's Deadly Intent, his quarter circle forward command dash that teleported several times, and then there's Mark of an Assassin, which was his very fast backdash option. Both of these, again, were frame 4 invincible to projectiles. So if he was quick enough, he could avoid projectiles, but there could have been some situations where he was just a little too slow. And, this could be the difference between you being able to successfully evade the opponent's zoning and getting in, or getting blown up for it. And as you probably suspected with talking about the iframes on Deadly Intent and Mark of an Assassin, if they were frame 4 projectile immune, well, if I'm able to execute properly, they're now like frame 1 projectile immune, as you can see here. So this should just mean that Hit, no matter when he inputs these moves, almost has no risk of actually getting caught out by a projectile here. So between this buff and the Icy Glare buff, Hit kind of just has tons of skip your neutral zoning options, at least when they're from projectiles. Normals and the like are still going to catch Hit, so be on the lookout for that, but think twice before you shoot a beam or a key blast against Hit. The last couple of changes to talk about with Hit are to his B and C assist, so let's get into those. Previously, his B assist had 24 frame startup. Now, this is pretty serviceable as far as a strike lariat style assist goes, but when you also factor in the fact that he has an invincible A assist, which was only a frame slower, it kind of begged the question, why would you ever pick the B assist? The A assist was going to be 1 frame slower, but have way more defensive utility, and offer you pretty much about the same sort of combo extensions that you wanted to. A assist just for the invincibility property alone, and its defensive uses was strictly better in every aspect. It seems that Bandai wanted to differentiate these two assists and bring the B assist up to par with some other strike lariat assists. It's 2 frames faster, so this assist will come out and strike the opponent earlier than the A assist will. But it still is kind of a hard sell to me because, in the 3 frame difference between the B assist hitting and the A assist hitting, the A assist is just invincible, so it's probably going to do the job for you. Not to mention, I think the A assist has a little bit better of a vertical hitbox, so I'm not entirely sold on this change, but at least they're trying to buff the B assist to give it a use. Lastly, there's been some changes to the iframes on Hit's C assist. Hit would become invincible during the startup of the move, but he still had some tendencies to be sniped out by the opponent. Obviously, if it worked, well, then that was pretty great. But if you were just too slow calling this, well, then Hit could have a tendency to get smoked on startup, just depending on the situation. Now for the C assist, they sped up the timing in which the attack becomes invincible, and the invincibility will continue until after the attack startup. So pretty much up until the point that Hit is actually firing the projectiles at you, he's invincible. Now, of course, if you catch him on startup, that's still a thing, but it should just be a lot more consistent as like an anti-zoning tool or an anti-scramble tool, something where the opponent can't just, catch it off guard. There are still opportunities and moments and whatnot, but they should be fewer and farther in between than they were before. Now that I'm actually able to look at a non-bugged version of Hit and evaluate him, I can safely say that I think he is still quite a strong character. He's got some of the best EX moves in the game with tons of iframes, and now there's even more iframes throughout his kit, particularly against projectiles, that help out his neutral play, which I tend to think was a point where he definitely had a few issues with. His command throws are a little more threatening, both as mix-up tools and as neutral tools. He should be able to consistently avoid the opponent's zoning with Deadly Intent and Mark of an Assassin, not to mention that he's got a bunch of new combo tools to play with. The fact that JS and 5S are now actually able to be used in combos completely opens up new routing for him. It's almost kind of insulting that when they give us all these new combo tools for him to play with, they also give back his auto combo loop when it's like, from what we're looking at, not a lot of people are going back to that auto combo loop, but it is nice that you can rely on it and keep in the corner positioning and default to it given the situation. So I think Hit is in a pretty good place as it is, and it's nice to see that, there is a strong character underneath here that isn't solely reliant on just looping an infinite by spamming one special move over and over again. He still has really good damage output, he still has some pretty strong mix-up tools, and his neutral is as good as it ever was. So if you're a Hit player, this is probably the best version of Hit that we've ever seen.